Satam Season 3, Issue 1. Cliffhanger? What cliffhanger? The story starts with the heroes still celebrating Robotnik's defeat with fireworks in the sky. Sonic pulls out his magical, portable electric guitar, which Uncle Chuck is for some reason surprised that he still has. He says that Sonic didn't value the guitar when he was little. Makes sense because playing music would be hard to do and a lot of kids would give up on easily, and he wasn't a teenager yet. So right away, it's kind of brilliant writing because they bothered to give a backstory to this really weird guitar. Then we see Sally sitting in front of her house alone, staring at the moon with a smile, and Sonic goes to her asking if she wants to have some fun. Sally says it's hard for her to believe that the fighting's over. It makes sense, she's a worrywart who gets suspicious more easily. Surprisingly, Sonic agrees with her, showing some depth to his character instead of just optimistically assuming the day is saved forever. He advises her to celebrate while they still can, and Sally compliments him on his advice all charmingly and says that he's not excused from helping clean up when the party's over. And he's unhappy about that because he's lazy, I guess. Why else would he care when he has super speed and would be able to clean up in seconds anyways? And the two share a laugh together. The art is amazing, by the way, straight out of Satam, though I expected that. Then we see Snively staring at the ruins of the Doomsday Project through bright camera footage. Why is it red? Are the cameras damaged or something? Snively complains and says he'll have a surprise waiting for the heroes when they come here to reclaim the city. And after he laughs maniacally, the next morning, Sally makes a plan with the heroes. She, Sonic, and Bunny will go into the city to see its condition. Good, Bunny's coming along, which makes sense since she's the second most competent. And Sally's with Sonic because she likes him. It's excellent that Rotor has a good design again, by the way. He's not covered in chimney soot anymore. I feel like he's too short, though. I always picture him as the tallest one. Sally says that she wants Rotor to work with Uncle Chuck on schematics for New Robotropolis. I guess it's Robotropolis. I guess I was going to start mispronouncing his name constantly again. Or rather, I didn't mispronounce it first, but then I second-guessed myself. Also, it seems in Satam he was Sir Charles as well. So what did this Uncle Chuck do to earn being knighted? Make helpful scientific inventions, of course, but which ones? Antoine asked what he'll be put in charge of. I was hoping she'd say nothing, having wised up, but instead she says he'll be sharing watch duty with Tails for now because Robotnik's machines are still operating and might reach an outhole. So basically, she'll put Antoine in the job where he can't really screw up much. The job for people who aren't considered competent. I mean, even if he falls asleep on the job, Tails will probably see it and wake him up. They all put their hands together to start the plan. By the way, I really love that all you have to do to go to the next page of this fan comic is to click on the page. Just like Archie Sonic Online. It's so convenient. And the comic says it updates every second Monday. I hope it stays true to that. Bunny and Sally comment on how weird it is to see Robotropolis such a quiet ghost town. But wait, why would it be so quiet at all? Sally said earlier that Robotnik's machines are still running, so wouldn't they still be hearing swapbots and flying machines? And even then, that'd only be when they come across them. And I can imagine that otherwise, Robotropolis would always be really quiet because it's full of brainwashed Mobians. Why haven't they encountered any of those? Sonic lampshades they're standing around doing nothing, and Sally says that they'll split up foolishly, but keep in touch, even though she acknowledges that the city could still be dangerous. Seriously, what is going through Sally's head, other than independent arrogance when she insists on going on missions alone? She doesn't have any ray guns to defend herself or anything. She'll probably get kidnapped. Why doesn't she just stay with Sonic if she likes him so much? Sonic is contacted on his wristwatch thing and is told to head to the factory district to see something that can't be described. Sally, who has her eyes hidden, says that he'll have to see for himself and he has to meet her in the Swapbot factory. I'm really suspicious. Is this not really Sally? It looks like her. Sonic can't find Sally there and gets surrounded by Swapbots looking scared. Snively does some clapping and finally goes to confront Sonic, saying, "Well done, Pincushion. Too bad you couldn't figure out a bit faster," insulting his speed. What's really great is that since Satam had voices for all these characters, I'm reading their lines with those voices in my head, and it enhances the experience. He's kidnapped Sally and Bunny. What? Shouldn't Bunny have trashed those swap bots with her super strength? Flipped them over or something? Punched them? She must have been grabbed from behind. But how? She split up with Sally. Sonic lampshades that he should have known Snively would step up for Uncle Tubby. And he doesn't take him seriously at all, telling him that he should just call off his robots and spare them both the headaches. Okay, first he shows he's terrified of the swap bots, and now he's suddenly not afraid of them anymore just because Snively's there? I get that he's just having bravado masking his intimidation all the time, but still. And like both Sally and Bunny being captured by swap bots reminds me of Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Penders. This shouldn't be so easy for Bunny. Sally apologizes to Sonic that while she tried to stop it, the words just came out of her on the communicator. So that really was her. Okay, it took me a couple seconds to realize that Ixis had brainwashed her earlier into saying stuff, like he did in his debut episode. I forgot he could do that because that's not an elemental power. Snively whines about not being paid attention to, and we cut to Sonic and friends trapped in the holding cell waiting for interrogation. Why would he bother with interrogating them instead of just trying to have them killed with all the swap bots right away? Moron. Of course, I understand that if he acted remotely smart here, it'd end the series on an overly dark note. But logically, he should just build a nuke, target the Great Forest, and not bother keeping them alive just to try to find out where exactly Knothole is. Bunny complains that Sally had signaled her to the factory too, and Sally blames herself, with Sonic lampshading it. A swapbot tells them that Robotnik is coming to interrogate them. Already he's back? Sonic gets taken away and strapped to a dentist chair and says to Snively, "Hey there, Sheriff, what am I in for?" Snively says that if he wanted, he could torture his friends instead of him, but then he might lie, so instead, he'll use Ixis, who calls his brainwashing powers of persuasion when he doesn't persuade anyone. The whole thing is that brainwashing gets around needing to do that. Sonic lampshades Ixis being here without being Crystal, and thankfully starts to explain. When the Doomsday device was destroyed, it released powerful waves of energy all over Mobius that somehow reached even into the Void when it was a separate dimension. I guess the Void exists in the same space as Mobius, but on a different plane of existence from it, and the powerful waves of energy transcend dimensions. Like how it was stated in the superhero crossover, that this was the case for all zones, and they just existed on different atomic vibrational phases or frequencies. But even that doesn't make sense. Why did the energy transcend all dimensions? What, did Ixis create another portal out of the Void at the site of the Doomsday device at the exact same time that it was being destroyed, even though he had no reason to try it? Eggman's Void portal generator was probably destroyed too. Somehow, the energy solved the problem that had kept Ixis from escaping before, since he'd learned that it was in fact the physical act of him crossing dimensions that caused the crystallization of his body. Because his body can't handle the going through a portal. So by using the magical power of Sanctuary to harness Doomsday's energy waves, it could activate a spell teleporting him out of the Void because his powers have no limits at all, bypassing the physical cross. Well, if he can make a portal to the Void, then I guess teleportation isn't too far-fetched, since warping would basically just be stepping into a portal anyways. Still, that doesn't make any sense. Like, wouldn't warping be creating a portal and then you get sucked into it? That would be a physical act, crossing into it. Sonic taunts Ixis that Snively has him licked because Snively tells Ixis to remember their deal, and Ixis brainwashes Sonic after briefly electrocuting him. It's good to have the villains be threatening so you can really support their eventual defeat. Ixis says that his magic's not strong enough away from Sanctuary, so he can't hold the mind control spell forever. I know he's only called Ixis in Archie, but who cares? He's the same character in both continuities. Maybe if Naugus was his first name in the comic. Sonic is brainwashed into giving Snively some recap, explaining that the Power Stones disappeared. So where? Can't destroy matter. After Snively asks where Knothole is, we cut away to Sally and Bunny. Bunny says that Sally's distracted from worry that they could manipulate the robots into letting them out of here because they think Snively is Robotnik. Sally gets the swapbots' attention and she pretends to be Robotnik, telling them to release both prisoners and report to the neighboring cell block. And somehow the robots fall for it. This Deus Ex Machina is explained as Sally saying that somehow there's no way that Snively could have programmed the SWAT-bots to see him as Robotnik, even though he can make literally everything, including a brain scrambler. She just randomly assumed that their visual systems weren't tampered with for no reason, and assumed that their audio receptors were messed with instead, so all he'd have to do is alter his voice a little to be heard as Robotnik instead of just speaking with his regular voice. Okay, that still doesn't explain why they would hear Sally as Robotnik. I refuse to believe this. I love this comic, but still, Sally got way too lucky here. When Bunny said she had a plan to get them out, I was hoping it would involve new cyborg powers that Rotor finally got the good sense to give to her. You know, maybe Tails should be the engineer, because maybe he would be smart enough to do that. Meanwhile, Sonic had the willpower to resist Ixis so he couldn't tell them where Knothole was. I guess this was a product of his extreme stubborn determination, which I associate more with Fleetway Sonic. But still, how do you resist brainwashing? After the spell ends, Ixis doesn't have time to try it again because Bunny throws something metal at Snively and he narrowly dodges it, justifying it. Was she intending to kill him? Sally hugs Sonic, and as they start leaving, Sonic lampshades that for once it was Sally who saved him, and is too proud to admit that he needed to be saved. Sally looks worried, staring off into the distance. It tells him to just keep moving. What is up with her? She's acting like she's on the verge of an emotional breakdown. Already. Ixis nags Snively that his weakness is the same as Robotnik's. He trusts too much in his technology, which he dismisses as feeble-minded. I guess he's talking about the SWAT-bots and how they're not too smart. And Snively insults Ixis as washed up. This is very stupid of him to do. You'd think that kind of behavior would provoke Ixis destroying him or something. I want to know what incentive Ixis has for working with this guy, not just instantly ousting him. Sally goes back to stargazing with Sonic and says she'd much rather be at the party than where they stand now. Sonic lampshades that he's never seen her this bad, and she says she doesn't want him to see her look weak at all. Sally's naturally very frustrated that they were supposed to have won after beating Robotnik, and they didn't, because Satam technically got a third season. I don't blame her for snapping in universe like this, and it's especially good writing that she immediately apologizes to Sonic, and Sonic isn't mad at her. Still, what did she expect? Well, I guess she expected that Snively would have disappeared along with Robotnik, and that Ixis wouldn't have returned to Mobius through a random Diabolus Ex Machina, at the same level of the Ultimate Annihilator creating portals to other zones. What about the Power Stone sending the Doomsday Machine to the Void would let Ixis come out of it without being crystallized? They just swept that under the rug. I expected better of an explanation than that. Sally shows insecurity, saying that she's scared she won't be able to handle fighting Snively and Ixis even though she fought Robotnik just fine before. Already I can tell that Sally is written much better than the one in Season 2 and especially Season 1, as she's got her overly insecure with herself for no good reason personality trait from the comic book. So combine that with her not wanting to look weak and she's already a deeper character. She feels relatable, much more so than Bunny or Rotor or Antoine. Sonic lampshades that she can't ask herself to be ready for something as magical as Naugus, and he puts his hands on her shoulders and hugs her, reassuring her. It is always a treat to see them, hugging. That's nice, at least. Then Snively says that the SWAT-bots will be fully reprogrammed soon. Why didn't he just do that in the first place? He even lampshaded that he knew a quick fix would have backfired at him earlier, so he shouldn't have even tried it. Snively doesn't really strike me as lazy, but maybe I just don't know him well enough because he never got enough focus as something other than a lackey. Ixis shows faith in the hero's resourcefulness, and he says he's frustrated by his failure today while still looking calm, contrasting Snively. He ends the story by revealing that they can just go get the Chaos Emeralds if they want some better power than the Power Stones. Well, I should have expected this. They were ignoring them for a long time in the show. Technically, this is called an interlude. I don't know, whether its own video or not will depend on how long it'll take. We start out at Robotropolis when it's raining in black and white for laziness, and we see someone in a cloak sneaking past robots. Of course it's Sonic. Sonic wastes our time reflecting on how impatient he is, and then he thinks about how realistically all of the insults he was given have affected him. Sonic doesn't think. Sonic's stupid. He remembers one of the worst things Sally said to him, looking unhappy and anguished. And he thinks that when he thinks, he remembers what a failure he is. Well, he is the worst Sonic. He's scared of robots instead of killing them, and he's made the most stupid mistakes. I mean, at least Boom Sonic and Color Sonic were more competent. I love this. It's a fascinating take on Sonic and it shows consequences to Sally's behavior. He thinks about how he failed when he time traveled. He failed to keep Bunny from getting partly roboticized. Wait, that's not a failure. But being a cyborg was amazing. Why is everyone tone deaf to this? And while Mutsky being roboticized is a problem for now, he'll eventually get his free will back, I assume. And then it'll be all worth it. He'll be a useful robot dog. I hope, because the comic didn't take advantage of him for the heroes at all. And Chuck being a robot let him be a robot spy. Oh, here's a proper failure again. People got captured while freedom fighting, like the boringly named Cat. Sheesh, at least some other characters named Cat have to start with a K. He thinks that he failed to save the king from the void. I mean, doesn't that come in hand with a time travel thing? And if he's not talking about that, well, it's not his fault that the king crystallizes. And he thinks that he's not fast or strong enough, and he always fails in the end, since Ixis came back. He hears a beep, ends up yelling at himself to get up, as I wonder why he's even in Robotropolis. And while he realizes that the robots probably heard him, he rationalizes it away as being just the thing he needs to motivate himself to get moving. Because his friends are counting on him to do whatever. And he starts acting confident again. This Sonic is the one I can buy being insecure sometimes. Not only because Sally's been very rude to him in Season 1, to say the least, but because he's a wuss around swap-ons, so of course he's not that confident if he never even tried to spin dash through them. Okay, so this issue had excellent art, better characterization for Sally, and all around I loved getting to read it and starting this comic. Like seeing a Season 3 of Satam finally. But I was still left frustrated in the end. I was really disappointed in the lack of a proper explanation for Ixis coming out of the void. What about the energy waves of the Doomsday device when it was being destroyed should cause him to be able to warp himself out of the void just fine? Did he absorb them and become more powerful from another universe? Huh? I wish I knew if this was really how the show planned to explain this, or if it was just the fans not knowing how to fill in the plot hole because of lack of information. Just tell me that once though, I don't need to be told more than once. It was also a Deus Ex Machina that rather than Bunny breaking out with cyborg powers like blasting a laser or breaking her tusk with super strength or something, Sally just assumed that rather than Robotnik being truly the ones who interrogate Sonic, the SWATbots merely heard every voice as Robotnik's. An assumption, fine, but it being right? She got way too lucky. Why did Sally have so little faith that Snively could reprogram the robots to think he's Robotnik, which he proceeds to do anyways? There was no indication he was altering his voice before. I guess the reason he settled for the quick fix first was because it was quick. Reprogramming all the SWATbots would take so much time that he wouldn't have been able to capture the heroes with them in this episode. I also really want to know why Ixis is bothering putting up with Snively's rudeness to him just because they have a deal. Ixis hated Robotnik. Maybe he's just in it for power for himself, but if he doesn't like technology, you'd think his first order of business would be to de-roboticize all the Robians, since he could do that in the comic. And that definitely helped get him some good PR. Well, he wanted them all dismantled in the comic Possessing the King, but they're just a portion of the civilians, not all of them. I do like that Sally was all sad and frustrated that they had to start all over again fighting against the dictator. It shows realistic consequences rather than all of the heroes not minding continuing the fight at all. Speaking of those, the second story was all about those. As Sonic shows a lack of faith in himself when he's for some reason with Robotropolis because of all the insults heaped on him by his friends thinking he's stupid. It was interesting.